Good morning and welcome to Morning Movie News, where today I have two awesome stories for you. One WTF story, like what a waste of colossal time and money for everyone involved. And then a viewer question, which is concerning many of you about Supergirl. But we're going to have an answer on that probably very soon as to whether it moves to the CW, and I'm guessing yes. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's get to the first story of the day, which comes out of the Cannes Film Festival. Now, the Cannes Film Festival has a lot of stuff going on. Movies are premiering, movies are being promoted, and movies are being packaged and sold. What does that mean? What's that last one mean? The first two are pretty self-explanatory. But the last one is where someone takes a picture and they shop it around to investors and also foreign distributors. A couple of weeks ago, or actually maybe just a week or so, a BTT viewer from Africa asked me how movies get distributed elsewhere. And so I'm bringing that up because this is exactly what I'm talking about. And sometimes those foreign distribution rights are sold first. A producer will go and get a bunch of foreign distributors to pony up some cash for the rights to distribute said movie if it gets made in their territories. And then they go to the American studios and they say, look, I already have all this foreign placement together, I have some money, and it just becomes a much more attractive deal to the studio. However, this movie seems incredibly attractive, and that's Steven Soderbergh's new film, which finally has the title Lucky Logan. And that is the NASCAR heist Ocean's 11 type movie that we discussed about a month or so ago. But it's finally coming together. It sounds so good. Now, it was going to be Channing Tatum and Michael Shannon, but Michael Shannon had to drop out because of a scheduling conflict with the Guillermo del Toro movie. But, I think that's fine. I think Michael Shannon would have been great in a NASCAR crime movie. But I'm just happy that while he is reteaming with Channing Tatum, that Steven Soderbergh is reaching out to work with new people. I don't like theater troupe filmmakers because all their movies just then start to seem the same. So who is he bringing on board? Well, as you can see from the photos, Adam Driver, Mr. Kylo Ren. That's incredibly exciting. He would be absolutely fantastic in such a film, and he will be because he's going to be in it. But then somebody whose involvement is in talks still, but isn't set for sure, is Seth MacFarlane. I mean, who's not going to see that movie? I mean, Seth MacFarlane hasn't done so well at the box office by himself. The first Ted movie was a huge hit, but he kind of got lucky. He lightning struck, I guess you could say. He had the right idea. It was his first movie. But Ted 2 didn't do particularly well, and A Million Ways to Die in the West did not do well at all. And Seth MacFarlane also, by the way, is getting a live-action TV show that he's going to be starring in. So you're going to be seeing a lot, like actually seeing Seth MacFarlane instead of hearing him in the near future. But I think that in a supporting role with Channing Tatum and Adam Driver, with NASCAR and car racing, who doesn't want to see that, right? I'm very curious if you're as excited about this idea as I am. But I have to also say, I just trust in Steven Soderbergh at this point. I was a little off of him for a while because of that theater troupe acting, situation that he had where he always used the same actors. But I really did enjoy the Ocean's 11 franchise. I thought the Magic Mike, both movies were very good. He didn't direct the second one, but he did shoot it. And also, I even liked Haywire. I think that Gina Carano's Haywire, while not spectacular, is an extremely good rental. And then also, The Knick. I can't say enough good things about The Knick. Although, I don't like the way it ended because I felt it was forced. But anyway, I'll forgive Steven Soderbergh for that. And I'm very excited for this picture. I would imagine that anybody in Cannes would be like, yes, please. All right, so that's the first story of the day. Now I'm going to top it with an even better story for number 2. And that is that everybody loves Stormtroopers, and apparently everybody also wants to be one. I think many of us knew that in the fan community, but now it seems that some of the biggest name actors are also enamored with the idea of putting on the white enamel plastic armor. So now, as everybody knows, or maybe you don't know, I don't think they did a good enough job promoting this. In Star Wars The Force Awakens, Daniel Craig does have a cameo as a Stormtrooper. He's the Stormtrooper that Daisy Ridley's Rey uses the Force on to get him to free her, right? And I think that once you know that, it makes the scene all the more fabulous. It's a good scene all on its own. I think Daisy Ridley's very good in it, and Daniel Craig has fantastic comedic timing. And if you know it's him, you can kind of hear it in his Stormtrooper voice. But, I don't think they let enough people know that it was was him. And I think they should have. I think they should have said, without giving this context of the scene away, Daisy really interacts with a Stormtrooper and it's Daniel Craig. I just think that would have been nice. So hopefully they'll do a better job letting people know that Tom Hardy apparently is in Star Wars Episode 8 as a Stormtrooper, or is at least thinking of doing it. Now, I'm going to tell you what the rumor is that he's going to do in Star Wars Episode 8, but if you don't want any spoilers at all, you can skip ahead to the next story. All right? Still here? Okay, so apparently Finn goes on a secret mission to the First Order Academy where they train stormtroopers. And Hardy's trooper gives him a friendly smack on the butt as he's excited to see his old friend from First Order Academy. Oh, I guess they're somewhere else, okay? And congratulates Finn on his promotion to Resistance Infiltrator. So I guess he thinks that, Finn's actually working for the First Order still. Then Hardy's trooper walks off and Finn goes about his business. I would say that, right off the bat, obviously, I think the people who are really into shipping Poe and Finn will love the butt smack. And I would think that I would be like, Lucasfilm can't be that obtuse. They must know that they're playing into that if they decide to do that. But I do like what they're doing with Stormtroopers in the Star Wars universe. I thought it was hilarious when the two Stormtroopers turned around when Kylo Ren was throwing his temper tantrum, right? They're like, not going to go that way, right? Everyone loved Traitor. So I think that they're doing so much to raise the profile of Stormtroopers and having so much fun with them. What I want to know is, where's my Stormtroopers Netflix show, right? I mean, everyone loved that Saturday Night Live sketch with Undercover Boss and Kylo Ren. I think you could do something somewhere in the middle there. But I think that's a really fun story. And if they can continue to get celebrities to do Stormtrooper cameos, I think that could be a really fun, ongoing gag. All right, so the third story of the day I told you was something that I was like, what? What a total waste of everyone's time and money. And with all due respect to Brenda Chapman, I just understand why you would make this movie if you didn't have like a really big name behind you to make sure people pay attention to it, especially with the problem that fairy tale movies are having these days if they're not made by Disney. This sounds a little Finding Neverland-like to me, especially because it doesn't have a studio yet, so it's going to have to be low budget. But, Finding Neverland had Harvey Weinstein pushing it, and he's pushed it all the way to Broadway. So I'm not quite sure who would be the savior of this project. But you tell me if you think it has any appeal. So Brenda Chapman, she was an animation director for many years. She was a co-director on The Prince of Egypt, but she's best known for, infamously, being fired off of Brave because, they just didn't feel she was doing a good enough job bringing it together, even though she did come up with the idea for the film. But because of, contract negotiations, etc., she still ended up winning an Oscar for the picture. So now she's going to direct her first live-action movie called Come Away, and it's a Peter Pan and Alice in Wonderland prequel that reimagines them as a brother and sister. And this is the pitch. It says when their eldest brother dies in a tragic accident, they each seek to save their parents from their downward spirals of despair until finally they are forced to choose between home and imagination, setting the stage for their iconic journeys into Wonderland and Neverland. Why wouldn't they go to the same place, right? They're like, enough of this. I don't know. It seems forced to me. Also, there's been a lot of this kind of mixing of different literary characters before, particularly by Alan Moore. He's Mr. Put a bunch of literary characters into a bag and shake them up. He's done he's done The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, and then he also has, I think it's called Lost Girls, which is like a softcore porn thing of Dorothy and Wendy and I think Alice all going off together to have an adventure. But anyway, I don't know about this. I'm not quite sure. I think that there's something appealing about the idea of putting Peter Pan and Alice together, and I do like that it addresses the tragedy that is underlying in both those stories that I think Hollywood's and mainstream storytelling so often just decides to do away with. Not so much the Alice in Wonderland live-action movies, but I think there's such a strong feminist bent on those, and we'll get to feminism in just a moment with the viewer question, that I think it detracts a little bit from the gravitas that's trying to be injected there. So I think the idea is somewhat interesting. I wish this was based on a popular book. I wish it had something to lend it some credibility, right? But it doesn't. It's being written as a screenplay for the screen. And it has producers behind it who have experience, but they're not big names. So we'll see. We'll see if this works out. I mean, at the very least, it will be inexpensive to make, and they'll see if they can get it off the ground. If they can sprinkle some pixie dust on it. I couldn't help myself. All right, so let's go to the viewer question from Simon B. And Simon says, "Hi, Grace. Question. How do you feel about the rumors, quite strong possibility, of Supergirl moving to the CW to be in the same network as Arrow, Flash, and Legends of Tomorrow? Do you feel this would be a good thing for the DC TV universe to finally be complete? But Gotham is still, and Krypton's going to sci-fi. But anyway, Simon says, and also do you feel that it could potentially mean more crossover characters? Love BTT and Movie Math, and always go to your channel first for any reviews, spoiler or non. Keep up the good work, Simon. Tons of great emojis. Aw, Simon, that's so nice of you. Well, here's the thing. Supergirl is moving to the CW because CBS, apparently, if it does move, doesn't want to pay for it anymore. And that's kind of embarrassing, right? Although many people, and I've always said the show looks a little cheap sometimes, and many of you have said that The Flash has far better visual effects, and that's already on the CW. But apparently it costs about $3 million an episode of Supergirl, and CBS doesn't feel it's getting the ratings to warrant that kind of expense. So they're going to not only move it to the CW, but apparently to also shoot in Vancouver. I feel that I think it'll be nice to have everything on one channel because the fan base is also splintered. I think you have people who tune in regularly to watch those other shows on the CW out of loyalty to that brand, but they're not really going over to CBS. Will they go over to Supergirl? I think it depends if they couple it with one of these shows before or after it. Hopefully after it. And they probably would bring up more crossovers to try and help Supergirl be accepted a little bit more. But the reason Supergirl isn't accepted is its own darn fault, as we've discussed many times in my reviews of the show. And that's that it just can't help but be overly feminist. And that's the same problem that Agent Carter has suffered. And that also looks like it's not going to come back. And these shows were just so insistent on being girl power shows. And I saw somebody make a comparison on Twitter who sent it to me the other day that Wonder Woman, the rap cast, like the end of the crew shot, was just people celebrating making the end of a movie. But when they finished shooting Ghostbusters, they all held a big sign that said girl power, right? And people really don't like that. Even a lot of women don't like that. I mean, it's just really like, come on. I think that with anyone who's searching for equality, it's just to be part of the group, not to have your group still stand on its own but get a lot of recognition or move above the other groups. Nobody wants that. Everybody just wants to be part of the larger group. So I think you're seeing that problem with Supergirl suffering from it, Agent Carter suffered from it, and I think Ghostbusters is going to end up suffering from it. And it's a shame because Agent Carter was even a little too much for me, but I think that Supergirl is a very good show. It really definitely has its moments. And I think that Ghostbusters looks like a lot of fun. So it's really frustrating to see these really good projects get in their own way, right? And I don't know what it's going to take for these creators to realize that nobody wants this like overt girl power scenario. So we'll see what happens. At least Supergirl won't be dead. I am still pulling for a Martian Manhunter Alex Danvers spinoff. Like, just take that to the CW. It's certainly going to be cheaper, and I think that that's a lot where a lot of the excitement is coming right now from Supergirl. Although I also, of course, love Cat Grant, played by Callista Flockhart. But it's a good show. We'll see what happens. And also, I think it's also burdened by the fact that Superman can't show up. I think that's also a little problematic. But overall, I think it's a little bit embarrassing for the DC shows to have gotten up to the major network level with Supergirl and have to be shunted back. But we'll see. At least Gotham is still on Fox, and we'll see what happens with Krypton on Sci-Fi if that works out. All right, so that's morning movie news today. Thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in. Please write down below what you think today's top 3 stories and that viewer question. What do you think of Supergirl moving? Good or bad? Embarrassing or not? And is girl power to blame? And then also let me know what you'd like to see covered tomorrow and any questions that you might have. Thanks for watching. Bye.